Good morning, everybody. You should be able to see and hear me now. I got started without all of you. Sorry about that. Let me start over. I'm Jennifer Wilhoit. Welcome to this session. Thank you for your patience waiting. Um, you should be able to see and hear me now, and maybe my friend Kate will send me another text message saying that she can hear me now. Sorry about that. We are all here together now. This is Love in Action, nature-based and creative compassion. And I want to formally welcome you to this session. I want to let you know this is interactive. I did put some things in the chat box, um, uh, my email address and a resource page. And so please check that out. Also, hopefully I will be able to see if there's anything coming into the chat box. Thank you for your question, Ruby, about will this session be started? Because had you not done that, I might not have known that this wasn't recording. Um, I am a spiritual ecologist, a researcher. I'm the founder of Teal Arbor Stories, which is a creativity mentorship um, business, very therapeutic work I do with folks. Most of all, though, I am a lover of the natural world, the divine in all of the ways that that manifests in nature, in ecology. And so, what I want to do is give you a taste of that today. Um, I want to acknowledge this land that I sit on, the traditional land of the Suquamish people, amazing canoe makers and salmon fishers and cedar basket weavers. I also want to not acknowledge, though, the local species here on this land, the non-human species like the trees, Douglas fir, red alder, Sitka spruce, hemlock, and some of the underbrush, the blackberry and the salal and the ferns and the Oregon grape. I also want to acknowledge the flying beings like eagle and osprey and hawk and all of the woodpeckers and songbirds that we're fortunate and blessed to have with us here. And to say that I am surrounded on this little island by the Salish Sea, which is an old name for the Puget Sound of Washington State. So I'm coming to you from that place. So this workshop will be, please be sure that you have paper, pen, and a nature object, if you have one, available to you as we move through these activities. This is intended, by the way, this session to really support you in your faith tradition. So please, when I offer writing prompts and activities, consider all of that within your own framework in a way that is comfortable to you, maybe pushes an edge a little bit, but really this is meant to be a way to augment, to expand your own practices, not to be a substitution for what is already meaningful to you. So I want to share a quote by Richard Rohr, Franciscan father. Perhaps once we can see God in plants and animals, we might learn to see God in our neighbors, and then we might learn to love the world. The natural world is a treasure trove of inspiration, beauty, and healing. Just take a few moments, maybe close your eyes, and think about what you gain from being in a natural area. How do you benefit from nature? Consider that we all move differently through the natural world. Some people don't move at all in the natural world, they relax into a place. Some of us move quickly. Some meditate on the natural beings that are around us, or pass them by and only let big uh, activities call to us when we're out. So we experience the natural world as physical beings, as beings with emotions, as cognitive beings, like learning about local flora and fauna and seasonal changes and transitions. And we are inspired by the natural world. That would be the spiritual part of us. So, out of this bounty, we are able to grow a little bit of self compassion and to give to the world compassionately. So, what I would like to do now is to offer you a writing prompt. I'm going to put this image over the screen. I will be using photos that I took. Now would be the time to get out your pen and paper. And here's what I would like for you to do. I would like for you to consider what natural elements, fire, air, earth, water, that you use in your own faith traditions, sacred rituals. What natural elements do you use? And just jot these down on your paper. Where do you obtain these natural elements? From what kinds of ecosystems or biomes or other kind of place do you get the objects that you use that are natural, that you use in your sacred rituals? Take another 30 seconds. Just think about, is there a way that you use something made of wood or wooden implements or fire, candles, flames, air, incense, singing, wind instruments, earth, maybe soil, water? We know about baptism and pouring libation and many kinds of rituals that involve water. So now I'm going to put up another photo, or you can use your nature object. So if you have an object with you from the natural world, please get that now and you can use that for the prompt, or you can use this image that I'm going to place in front of the screen. And for this writing prompt, I want you to consider this object that you have in front of you or this photo that I'm offering, and describe this object or image. What do you see? What do you feel? Use all of your senses. Does this image or the object you have feel a certain way to the touch? Smooth or soft or temperature wise? Is there any kind of taste sensation? Any scent or odor? And what about sound? Is there any sound associated with this object or image? And then consider, especially if you have a nature object, but also looking at this image if you don't, how is this in the natural world at this time of year? Is this something that's blooming or alive right now in your part of the world? Is this something that is around year round? How might it look in different seasons? And now turning your attention to your connection with this object. How are you similar to this object or image? Is there some shape you see or some desire you have that draws you to, makes you similar to this object or this image? What can you appreciate about this object or this image? Do you appreciate the weather in which you might find this object or image? Is there some beauty that you can see in this, or something that this reminds you of that maybe isn't present here, but that is pleasing to you? So that was a lot. Put your pens down, relax your hands. I often tell people to do this when they're done with a writing practice. I'm going to read another quotation. This is by Sarah Augustine. Humility is acknowledging that I am not separate from creation. I am a part of a web of life. I have been taught that this mutual dependence is a gift. Life is a gift. Are there any questions or comments at this point? If there are, please put them in the chat box, which I have open. Any questions or comments so far? Okay, so let's move on to another writing prompt. I'm not going to put up an image for this. I want you to draw from what is in your mind's eye. Greetings, Neil, from Edinburgh, Scotland. Nice to have you here. And yes, please feel free, you guys, to put your location in the chat box. That would be a nice way to get a little more interactive than the format allows. Kate says it was interesting to experience the nature object through the guidance. Thank you for trying this. I know for some of you, this might be a little unusual or different. These are practices I use every day for myself to nurture and nourish my own connection with the natural world and also with clients, particularly clients who are a little bit stuck in some way, stuck with a writing project, stuck with a creative endeavor, or who are in a life transition that they find difficult. So these activities are really versatile, they're really flexible, and they're intended to be done repeatedly. This is what a practice is, right? If you want to learn how to play an instrument or do a certain kind of art or be a better writer or anything, gardening, any of these things really require us to engage simple practices repeatedly. I have a piano over there, a keyboard that I got early in COVID. It was a long time wish that I finally just said I need to do. So I have a keyboard over there. If I don't put my fingers on the keyboard and practice, no music will come out of that thing. And I certainly won't increase or enhance my piano playing skills, which are minimal, I have to admit. Um, I'm reading some comments in the chat before we move into the next activity. Kate says, I love that you brought in our senses, and that's a shout out I'll give to Kate. Thank you for your comment, and also to say that at later this afternoon, 12:45, I believe, Pacific time, so you'll have to translate that into your own um, time zone. Kate will be doing a workshop on our sensible nature, so please look for that. Marion says this was a new experience. Good. I'm glad. I'm glad that this might be new for some of you. Again, these are intended to be very, very simple practices. And we can use any images, not just the ones that I happen to photograph and offer to you, not just the nature object that you happen to have, available to you on a windowsill or on a shelf. So let's move into this next activity. Again, there won't be an image for this. I want you to, maybe if you're comfortable with yourself, since we all can't see you, close your eyes and consider the fauna. That is the animals, the birds in your environment, wherever you live around you, or the closest natural environment to where you live. And you can write down some responses to this if you'd like to, or just kind of use this as a thinking, as a meditation. Um, what do you notice? And maybe you want to choose one or two species that you're used to seeing near you. What do you notice about their behavior? Think about this, meditate on this, or write it down. What do you notice about this species' behavior? Think about their natural movements, if they tend to be above ground, on the ground, in the water. And in thinking about these behaviors and normal actions that this species takes or makes, what do you experience as gentleness in their actions? Maybe think about what calms you about this species. And conversely, think about what might be aggressive in this species' behavior. Is this a predator of somebody? Maybe us, humans? So, what is gentle about them? What is aggressive about their natural behaviors? And now, trying to get a deeper connection here, What do you see? What connection do you see between their gentle or aggressive actions and your own capacity for compassion or discord? And we all have these capacities. This is not meant to be a judgment time, but really just a time to explore how are we like the animals around us? Where can we see their compassion or their potential for harm to another being? And how is that in us? And now turning again, shifting, it's like we're looking at this species from these different angles and looking at ourselves. How can you extend gentleness toward yourself? We think about being compassionate to others, and some people are better at that than being compassionate to themselves. So, how can you be gentle with yourself? How can you give yourself a break just for a minute? And how can you extend compassionate action to those around you? Of course, starting with people very near you, maybe in your home, maybe family, roommates, friends, neighbors next door, people in your community, people in this conference, people you don't know. How can you extend compassionate action out? Because it does ripple out. When I am nourished by the natural environment, I find then some capacity, some thrivance within me to then be able to extend that out to others. So now we're going to totally shift gears. Thank you for taking some moments to look at yourself in that way. The work I do, at the crux of the work I do, and the research I've done for 25 years, is to really look at what I call the inner outer landscape. All of that stuff is happening out there. And it's all happening within us, and it is connected, and we can get those two communicating, our inner landscape and the outer landscape, by having taking these moments to really deeply connect, to be a little bit reflective, to be a little bit aware of what's going on around us. So now let's shift gears. We only have a few minutes left, and I do want to leave an opportunity for you all to put questions in the chat box, please. The box I can see open on my screen to talk about nature based creativity as ritual. I do a lot of things in my personal life for my spiritual edification um, that are creative, nature-based ways of just connecting, of quieting myself, of becoming calm. However you describe the sacred or spiritual practice or ritual for yourself, um, see how these things I'm going to list and describe, how they might fit in for you, how you might use some piece of them in your own connection with God, the divine, whatever is your spiritual source and power. So I create things every day, every month, called natural calendars. And this is usually for me, it's a round template. Mine happens to just be cardboard that I got cut out of a box. And on that round template, one object for every day of the month, I put and arrange on this template. Um, Often on the first day of the month, I put a pine cone or a leaf or something just in the center of that round template. And then each day I add something from the natural world around me. The thing I would like to say before I describe these activities actually anymore is to say that when I go out, I often use fallen objects, objects that are already loose and available. I don't take lots and lots of them. I try to um, be like the deer I see browsing in our yard, who maybe take some nibbles off of one part of a bush and then move to another branch and take a few leaves off of that. So I generally will only use items that are plentiful. Um, and I take a few of them, one or two or three. And I like to take items that are fallen, which is convenient in this time of the year in the hemisphere I live in. It is autumn here, and I'm looking out and I'm seeing leaves and cones and twigs when the wind blows. Um, Lots of things on the ground that are available. So I like to put these items in the natural calendar template one by one by one until the end of the month. And often I actually take a photo of it and I use these photos. If you go to my Facebook feed or anywhere else, you'll see that I post these natural calendars when they're completed. And then on the last day of the month, I remove all of those items, often returning them to the natural world. And then I start fresh on the first day of the month again. It's a way of marking time for me that feels more sacred, that feels more connected to what is going on in the natural world. Also, I have to say, that's not in my list of things I want to tell you, that I like to celebrate markings of time that are in the natural world. For example, the transitions to different seasons, like the solstices and the equinoxes. I find that very meaningful for myself, not because when it becomes September 22nd, automatically in this hemisphere, it's the autumnal equinox, but I see that transition unfolding over time. I feel a little hint of coolness in the breeze in August, and I think, oh, next month, my favorite season, autumn, is coming. So these things unfold over time in slow transitions, right? But we can also mark the official day, the official moment. And often I do that by creating this next thing I'd like to tell you about, nature altars. And nature altars are very simple. Again, I have many photos of them online, or you can email me and I'll send you more photos or links to things than you ever wanted. But I like to take items again that are available, that are already fallen, that are not depleting anything in the natural world, and create just a symbolic something outside. And it might be a stack of rocks, a cairn. It might be some bark and some leaves and some dandelions that are growing in my yard that I arrange in some certain way. And I've used nature altars for a lot of different kinds of things. When my mother passed away a few years ago, I went to the beach for a few days because I just needed to be away from everybody and everything. And at the ocean, I created on the beach at low tide a ring of rocks. And I added enough rocks for each year that my mom had lived. And then I created some special um, um, flowers and shells and things in the center in a way I thought was pretty. And for each of you, you have that creative spark, you have that creative impulse. So, whatever is beautiful to you, there's no right or wrong way to do these nature based practices. Also, I take a lot of photos of the natural world, and I do that in a way increasingly that is more meditative rather than just grabbing a shot, because we already get so many benefits from the natural world. We breathe in the air and we offer out something that the trees then can use, right? We're in that dynamic exchange all the time. If when you woke up this morning you needed to drink some water or eat some food or take care of any other physical needs, you'll remember you're a physical being, you're part of the natural world. And so I like to take photos in a really meditative way in the natural world and then use them, much as I did today. For me, increasingly, I'm taking up more and more up close photos. I really love seeing the magic that happens, something I don't always see just with my eye. I take a photo, for example, up close of a flower, and then Later, when I look at that photo, I see maybe there was an insect on the petal that I didn't notice or that was maybe too small to notice with my naked eye. But when I expanded the photo later, I was able to see it. Or like the green image I showed you, where there were water droplets around the rim of each of those leaves of the succulent plant. I also like to just place my hands on the earth. And this is actually a practice in one of my books called Writing on the Landscape. I did this in a time where I was in a major life transition. Things were very difficult, and I just felt frayed, Frayed, and maybe a little afraid too. And it was just a difficult time. And I would go outside my home all seasons. In fact, I kept a log of for a year of all the places I went to actually just put my hands on the earth. Sometimes it was in ice cold water in winter. Sometimes it was on grass. Sometimes it was in mud or dirt or on rocks. And so just consider that that simple act, palms down, can be a meditation. It can be a way to acknowledge and remember our connection with the natural world. And also, I do a lot of journaling about the natural world and nature experiences. Also, I'm a writer, so I publish these things in books and on blogs. Um, and other places and other people's books and blogs. But you can do this just for yourself. It doesn't have to be a big formal nature journal, though, if you're inclined that way, you could actually use a nature journal and draw sketches or paint as well what you see out there. But just to actually um, to just see what is going on, observe, be aware, feel it maybe internally, and then write it down on a page. Nature journaling has so many forms, and I've done it personally so many ways over decades. But choose a way that works for you, and you can do sacred writing in a nature journal too, which I've started to do. I've started writing nature prayers, not other people's, though we can do that too. But sometimes I go out and I have such a potent experience in the natural landscape. And I mean a simple thing, walking out in the yard and a certain bird comes by in a particular way, flying or with all of his kin, um, and maybe they're foraging in a particular way or they're really loud, and I can get immersed in that and then come back and just write it like a prayer on the page, not caring too much what the words are or how they come out or if I spelled it right or if the grammar was correct or not, but just to capture it in some different way, which I think does something inside to us as well, kind of fuses or incorporates that experience a little bit. And also nature poetry. I am not a poet. I don't claim to be a poet, but I do write things that are more like poems than like prose. And also, I love to read nature poetry. And for me, that can be very meditative. So, those are some ways that you can engage with the natural world. I have countless ways. So please, if you're interested in this stuff, reach out to me by email or look at the resources document or connect with me on like events if those other ways have failed for you. And send me a connection request and a message saying that you want something or more information. I'd be so happy to provide that. Um, in sum, each of us has limitless potential for goodness. And we each have a niche or a role to fill in the world of beings, in our homes, in our communities, and in our broader uh, circles. So let's talk for a minute, just before I close, about compassionate action. I think compassionate actions are Again, infinite, there's an infinite list of ways we can do these. And if you're already in spaces where you feel like you can give these things and are offering these things, then just think of this as an affirmation of what you're already doing. And if you need a little bit of encouragement or support, to find a little more gentleness, kindness, service orientation to the world, let these small things I'm about to list encourage you to maybe try one or two of these today or this week. So, one thing is patience. Patience is compassion. That is a compassionate action. When I'm feeling frustrated or angsty or something like that, I do sometimes breathe deeply and find that deeper well of patience rather than reacting in the moment. Kind inquiry, asking people in a gentle, kind way what's happening, what's going on, and then listening to that answer from the heart space, listening to people's stories, asking people to share what they know or who they are. These are all kind actions. Giving, participating with, restraint of harm in word or deed, refraining from the sharp word when we're angry is a compassionate action. Outreach, learning about others, expressions of gratitude, prayers, blessings. I could go on and on about gratitude. I won't because we're running out of time. Let me read you one more quotation, please, by Sherry Mitchell. When we merge our internal rhythms with the rhythms of creation, we develop grace in our movement. And without thought or effort, we are able to slide into the perfectly choreographed dance of life. Thank you so much for attending this workshop. I will stay here in this room now that I successfully got it going until they cut me off and answer questions or receive comments. And I do want to note in the chat that Ruby offered a lovely adaptation of the natural calendar by saying you could sketch an image on the template. And that's absolutely right. That's a beautiful idea. And maybe that would be one image at the beginning of the month with natural objects in that image or on that image. Maybe it's drawing an image of the natural world repeatedly in that circular format, and then each month starting anew. But just know there are infinite ways we can adapt this. Kate is thanking me for the session. Thank you so much. Do please ask questions if you have any. I will pause for a minute to see if anybody's typing in the chat box. Any questions before I stop the broadcast? I'll keep it open for maybe one more minute. Also knowing that some of you will want to get to the next thing. Can you offer in writing the quotes that you shared? Yes, I can, Marion. If you could actually send me a connection request or put your email, if you're comfortable, in the chat box, I would be happy to offer those quotations to you. Ruby says, I will admit I find myself more compassionate for nature than people. Ruby, thank you for that honest admission. Me too. Sometimes it is just such an incredible respite to be out there without people. Um, and I see Kate is also acknowledging that, yes, those of us who are inclined, I am actually really introverted and I need a lot of silence and quiet and solitude to kind of recharge my batteries. I do a lot of things out in the world. And so the more I do out in the world, the more I need to replenish. And the silence and balm, BALM, that I get from being in the natural world can really help fortify me for rejoining the world of humans, which sometimes feels so loud and busy to me. Marianne, thank you. I'm going to capture your email address now, if I can here. Thank you very much for asking. And Kate says, but people are nature. I need to remind myself. Yes, Kate, thank you for that. Yes, we are nature. And the more we engage the natural world and connect and remember our similarities, like that one activity I offered, the more we can then embrace other humans also as natural beings. We're so easy and quick to make that distinction. Yeah, yeah, Ruby, they don't push buttons. Though I have to say, we had that's funny. That's very funny. I had a coyote close encounter yesterday. They're coming through our yard all the time, sometimes usually around the edges, around the perimeter, far away from this home, this structure where I live. But yesterday, early in the morning, it was still dark out. Dawn had not yet broken, and a coyote was coming right past the porch, right past the deck, very close, about 10 feet away, and looked at me and then took a few steps and looked at me intently again. And I took that as a bit of a challenge. I don't know if it pushed my buttons exactly, but it definitely made me aware and a bit wary. So other people are saying that you want quotes. So let me capture your email addresses. Maybe what I'll do is add them into the document, the PDF, and send that to you all as well. If for some reason I've made a flaw in typing your email address, do please reach out. Apparently, we're going to have access to one another through Excel events for the month. And so if you don't hear from me in a day or two, do please reach out, and I'm happy to send you this or any other information. So with that, I will thank you one more time for being here. I really appreciate your participation and willingness and attention to this 45 minutes, and also your patience in the beginning while I figured out how to actually start the broadcast. If you missed something at the beginning, do go back. I guess we can watch these recordings. That's kind of neat. Couldn't print the PDF. Okay, Ruby, I'll see what I can do. Do I have your email address? Did you just put it in? Oh, there it is. Okay, let me get your email address as well, and I will send the PDF. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Blessings to you. Enjoy the last day of the Parliament. Um, and I will hopefully be in touch with all of you again very soon. Many, many blessings. May nature hold you and protect you and care for you. Bye.